Strategic thinking in action often reveals the true impact of leadership. In this lesson, we'll explore a real-world case study that demonstrates the practical application of strategic thinking by a leader navigating complex challenges. You'll see how abstract concepts like alignment, adaptability, and long-term vision become concrete tools in day-to-day decisions. By the end of this session, you'll understand how strategic thinking influences not only outcomes, but also team culture and resilience during uncertainty. Let's take the case of Satya Nadella's leadership at Microsoft. When Nadella became CEO in 2014, Microsoft was facing stagnant growth. Internally, there was a culture of competition rather than collaboration. On the outside, the company was losing relevance in a rapidly shifting tech landscape. Nadella's challenge wasn't just about fixing a strategy, it was about transforming how Microsoft thought about itself and its purpose. One of his earliest strategic moves was a shift in mindset. Instead of focusing only on products like Windows or Office, Nadella promoted a cloud-first, mobile-first vision. This meant reimagining Microsoft not as a software company, but as a platform that empowers others, developers, businesses, and individual users to achieve more. It was a bold repositioning, and it aligned the company with where the market was going, not just where it had been. Strategically, he also realigned business priorities around Azure, Microsoft's cloud computing platform. At the time, Amazon Web Services was leading that space. Nadella chose to compete by integrating Azure into Microsoft's existing enterprise relationships. This created a unique value proposition. Businesses already using Microsoft tools could adopt Azure seamlessly. It wasn't about direct rivalry. It was about solving problems better, for existing customers. Culturally, Nadella emphasized empathy and growth mindset across the company. This was not a soft skill insertion. In terms of strategy, it supported collaboration, cross-product innovation, and customer-centric thinking. For example, under his leadership, Microsoft acquired LinkedIn, GitHub, and Nuance, moves that made sense only within a broader, human-centered vision of digital ecosystems. An important strategic element was communication. Nadella's messaging was consistent and clear: empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. This wasn't just marketing, it provided a decision filter. Teams could ask themselves, does this action empower others? That level of clarity is what gives strategic thinking real traction through an organization. Let's pause here and reflect. Strategic thinking isn't always about reacting quickly. Often, it's about choosing the right problems to solve and letting go of distractions. Nadella didn't chase every new tech trend. Instead, he stayed focused on cloud solutions, productivity platforms, and relationship building in the enterprise space. His restraint became a strategic strength. Leadership through uncertainty also means being ready to adapt. When COVID-19 hit, Microsoft was able to rapidly support remote work needs at scale. Why? Because its strategic foundation, cloud infrastructure, digital collaboration tools, and flexible licensing models, was already in place. Strategic thinking enabled operational agility in a crisis. Another example from this journey is Microsoft Teams. Released in 2008, it was developed in response to an internal debate about acquiring Slack. Instead, Nadella encouraged building a product that integrated Microsoft's existing services. Teams later became the centerpiece of remote collaboration during the pandemic. Strategic thinking here involved both anticipation and leveraging existing strengths. Nadella also changed how Microsoft approached open source. Historically, the company had been resistant to it, but strategic thinking requires reconsidering previous assumptions. By embracing open source and purchasing GitHub, Microsoft positioned itself as a friend to developers, a constituency that once considered it an adversary. This opened up new synergies, especially in artificial intelligence and cloud services. Strategic risks were an essential part of this process. Acquiring LinkedIn for over $26 billion could have backfired, but it reinforced Microsoft's push toward being a platform for professionals. By integrating LinkedIn data into Office and Dynamics products, Microsoft expanded its relevance across recruitment, learning, and customer relationship management. Let's not forget how strategic thinking was applied visually. Look at the shift in Microsoft's brand identity, from conservative and corporate to more inclusive and engaging. The new brand voice supported a more open culture. Websites, campaigns, even keynote events all began to express the idea that Microsoft was no longer simply a vendor, but a partner in progress. So, what made Nadella's approach successful? It wasn't any single decision. It was the alignment of vision, team culture, resource allocation, and stakeholder engagement. Everything pointed in one direction. That kind of cohesion is the essence of strategic thinking, not just planning and not just execution. Of course, Nadella wasn't alone in driving this change. Strategic thinking at the leadership level worked because it permeated through layers of management and teams. Leaders at every level were empowered to think long-term and make aligned choices. Strategic cultures tend to multiply their impact this way. They don't rely on just one person at the top. This case also shows that strategic thinking is not separate from personal leadership values. Nadella's emphasis on empathy and humility were not just personality traits, they became cultural strategies. They created psychological safety to innovate, admit mistakes, and learn. For example, product teams were encouraged to iterate publicly, collecting feedback faster and adapting more effectively. From a global perspective, strategic thinking included understanding regional markets. Microsoft's cloud solutions were designed to meet different compliance requirements across countries. The company didn't apply a one-size-fits-all model. It allowed for localized partnerships, such as data centers built in collaboration with governments. This illustrates strategic agility in meeting policy and cultural expectations while still driving growth. If you're a manager or aspiring leader, it's helpful to ask yourself, what would I have done differently in this case? Would I have taken those risks? Would I have focused on culture before technology? Examining real-world examples helps you build your own strategic judgment, which is often more important than just following a framework. To apply these lessons in your own work, start by aligning your daily decisions with a broader vision. Think about how small choices compound over time. Consider what your team values and how that influences outcomes. Strategic thinking isn't about making perfect predictions. It's about shaping a direction that others can follow, even when conditions change. In summary, the Microsoft case under Satya Nadella's leadership shows how strategic thinking is both visionary and practical. It requires clarity, courage, disciplined focus, and the ability to mobilize others. As we move into the next lesson, we'll explore how you can build these skills yourself, with practical tips and reflective habits to make strategic thinking part of your leadership toolkit.